Ukrainian troops report Russian attacks continue despite U.S. ceasefire deadline. While diplomatic efforts intensify, Ukrainian forces say Russia is continuing its offensive along the Eastern Front. Despite a looming U.S. deadline for Moscow to show progress toward a ceasefire, the fighting has not stopped. Ukrainian commanders report increased Russian troops movement near Pokrovsk, along with the artillery units being pushed closer to the front line. Drones are being used to track Russians' positions, and Ukrainian forces are responding with precision strikes. The front line remains active and volatile, with no signs that Russia is preparing to scale back its operations. On the contrary, Ukrainian soldiers say the pressure is increasing.
From our side, we can see that the artillery has become more active, and there has been a noticeable increase in enemy infantry movement in this direction. The artillery has begun to fire more frequently. It seems that more artillery has been brought in.
Yes, the war is the war it was. Maybe something is changing somewhere, but in our area, everything remains the same. The work continues. And don't pay attention to what they say in the news. We must defend the country until they declare that it's over.
Western analysts are outlining 5 possible scenarios for how the war in Ukraine could unfold by the end of the year. The least likely, Putin agrees to an unconditional ceasefire. With Russian forces advancing near Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka, the Kremlin sees no reason to stop now. A second scenario involves stabilizing the front line by October, followed by the talks that could lock in Russia's territorial gains, at least temporarily. A third option envisions Ukraine holding the line with continued Western military aid, forcing Putin back to negotiations as his offensive stalls again. But there are darker projections. A failed Ukrainian mobilization, renewed threats to Kyiv, and a weakened NATO response could leave Ukraine isolated at the risk of losing more ground. The most hopeful outcome that Russia, overextended and under sanctions, begins to crack. Yet for now, there remains more of a Western hope than a strategic plan. Trump and Putin near a key moment on Ukraine peace talks, says Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump may meet with the Russian president as early as next week to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. The U.S. is also working to arrange a 3-way meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. After months of failed attempts to stop the war, first by pressuring Kyiv, then by offering concessions to Moscow, Trump has switched to economic pressure. India has already been hit with a 15% tariff, and sanctions on China may follow next. It's up to him, Trump said, referring to Putin after talks in Moscow by his envoy Steve Witkoff. Putin has said he is in principle open to meeting Zelensky, but claims the conditions are not right. He also questions Zelensky's legitimacy. Trump is said to be increasingly frustrated that no peace deal has been reached after 200 days in the office. His advisors say he now understands any deal must include Kyiv's and Europe's positions, especially their refusal to recognize Russia's control over occupied territories. Experts doubt Putin is serious about peace. For him, the war matters more than relations with the U.S., says Alina Polyakova of the Center for European Policy. There are fears Putin may use talks to stall or propose keeping part of the occupied Ukrainian land. Such a deal would likely be rejected by Ukraine and Europe, but Trump may still blame Kyiv if talks collapse, possibly cutting U.S. support. Still, his advisors say Trump hopes to land what he sees as the biggest deal of his presidency by ending the war on his terms. Chancellor Merz's government hits record low in approval ratings. Public support for Germany's conservative government under Chancellor Friedrich Merz has dropped to its lowest level since taking office nearly 100 days ago, according to a new poll reported by DPA. Only 29% of respondents say they are satisfied with the government's work, a 10-point drop from the previous month. This marks the worst rating since the Merz cabinet began its term in early May. The 100-day mark will be reached next Wednesday. The survey also shows that 69% of Germans are either dissatisfied or completely dissatisfied with the governing coalition. Merz himself has also seen a sharp decline in personal approval. Just 32% of those surveyed said they are satisfied with his leadership, also down 10 points from last month. Two-thirds now say they are unhappy with the chancellor. A new front opens in Washington's energy war. The United States has imposed a 25% tariff on India exports, sending a sharp message to New Delhi over its continued purchase of Russian oil. Analysis based on a Business Standard column. The decision is seen as a part of Donald Trump's broader strategy to pressure key global buyers of Russian energy, not just through diplomacy but through financial pain. While India insists its oil trade with Russia is pragmatic and non-political, Washington is making clear that neutrality is no longer an option. According to Business Standard, this is not just a trade policy shift. It's a coordinated move to reshape the global oil and to isolate Moscow's biggest lifeline. Analysts say the next target could be China. Trump's calculus is simple: squeeze Russia's energy income by squeezing its top customers and force Vladimir Putin to the negotiation table on Washington terms. That's all for now. For more content, please subscribe.